Good evening, everyone. Tonight's lesson is called Keeping It Real, using sensory language and details to enhance your writing. In this lesson, we will look at sensory language, what it is and how it works to enhance the reader's experience of a piece of writing. The standard we will be addressing with this lesson is Colorado Standard 3.1a.4. Use precise words and phrases telling details in sensory language to convey a vivid picture of the experiences, events, setting, and/or characters. Specifically here, we will be focusing on the sensory language aspect of this standard. Your learning targets for this lesson are 1. By the end, to be able to describe what sensory language or detail is and explain the purpose of using it in narrative writing to better engage a reader. And 2. Using sensory language, write a piece of narrative that attempts to create a genuine experience for the reader. So, what exactly is sensory language? Sensory language, or sensory details, is a term that refers to words and phrases, specifically adjectives and adverbs, that relate to the 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. They help to enhance a reader's experience of a text by supplying real, concrete images and feelings to the reader, thereby allowing them to relate more directly and personally to the piece of writing. What all this boils down to is this: sensory language is the tool we use when we want to show our readers something instead of simply telling them. This is how we paint a picture with words, and is one of the key factors in distinguishing great writing from average writing. Some instances of sensory language are more powerful than others. For example, saying her dress was a deep midnight blue is much stronger and creates a much more compelling and vivid image than simply saying her dress was blue. From this example, you should note how the first phrasing creates a much stronger, specific image than the second. Now let's take a minute here to look at some examples of exactly what kinds of words constitute sensory language. First, we have lists of sight and touch. Take a moment to pause the video here and read through these lists. In your notebooks, jot down a few of the words you find to be especially interesting, powerful, or compelling. And take a second to note why you feel so about them. Then, go ahead and see if you can't come up with some words of your own that didn't make it onto these lists. Go ahead and pause the video now and read through the words. Here we have lists dealing with taste and smell and sound. Again, I want you to read through these lists and jot down a few of the words that you find to be especially powerful or interesting, and note why you think so about them. And again, additionally, see if you can't come up with some words on your own to add to these lists. Go ahead, pause the video now, and read through the lists. Now that we've gone over what sensory language is, and seen some examples of the words that we can use in writing with sensory language, let's try to identify some in an actual piece of writing. I want you to read the passage on the screen and find and write down the instances of sensory language you notice. Keep in mind that sensory language does not have to be simply specific, singular words. It can be short phrases as well. In addition to doing this, I want you to take a moment to think about these 2 questions and write down some responses to them. 1. How do these details add to the image or feeling you get from reading the passage? And 2, how would it be different if they had been left out? Write down your answers to these questions in your notebook and bring them with you for class tomorrow, where we'll be discussing this passage specifically. Go ahead and pause the video now. Alright, now it's time for you guys to try your hand at using sensory details in your own writing. I have supplied 2 purposefully interesting and poorly detailed passages. After reading them, I want you to rewrite each one, adding sensory details to make the scenes more realistic. Remember, your goal here is to show the reader something and not simply tell them. You want to make reading about the experience as close to the real experience itself as possible. Be sure to bring your rewrites with you to class tomorrow to share and compare with everyone else. Go ahead and pause the video now, read the passages, and do your rewrites. Alrighty, well, we've come to the end, so let's just take a minute here to recap and close things up. Alright, so what is sensory language? Sensory language, or sensory details, are the adjectives and adverbs that writers use to help bring a piece of writing to life. They do this by appealing to the 5 senses: taste, touch, sight, sound, and smell. The more specific and detailed this language is, the stronger your writing becomes, and the more your readers will connect to it and enjoy it. This happens because sensory language invokes memories and emotions in a reader. To always keep in mind that using sensory language in your writing is what distinguishes truly great writing from average or mediocre writing. Alright, well, in class tomorrow we will be discussing comparing the rewrites you have done tonight, so be sure to bring them with you. As well, we'll spend some more time practicing using sensory language as you guys begin to work on an original piece of narrative writing. So, for tonight, go ahead and note down any questions you have about sensory language and how to most effectively use it in your writing, and we'll go over those tomorrow. Additionally, I would recommend putting down some ideas on paper tonight for your narrative that you'll be working on tomorrow, so we can spend as much time in class on actual writing as possible. Alright, you guys, well, I hope this video was informative, and remember, bring any questions with you tomorrow, and we'll be sure to address all of them. Thanks. I look forward to seeing you in class tomorrow and reading all your terrific rewrites. Have a good night.